editor of the New York Times op-ed page, James Bennett, resigned over the weekend, and the deputy editor has been reassigned. This after the newspaper claims it, quote, rushed its editorial process when it published an Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton's op-ed, which was titled "Send in the Troops," where he argues the Insurrection Act could be invoked to help deal with the violent protest. But an interview in the National Review with Senator Cotton's staff tells a much different story about the so-called rushed editorial process. They say, quote, listen to this, the original pitch to the paper was to package together an argument on the Insurrection Act with another proposal, but the editors were interested in a piece focused solely on the Insurrection Act. There was haggling over what the angle and the point of the piece ought to be, and that there was at least 3 drafts, and the Times would send along edits for approval, and then the Cotton team would sign off. The first 2 rounds focused on the clarity and style, and the last round on factual accuracy. We were challenged on a couple of things and actually made changes, end quote. Well, Bennett initially defended the piece, but has since apologized for the op-ed, saying that it had not been edited carefully enough. Interesting, since we saw that it was 3 times. Later, he admitted that he actually hadn't even read it himself. Very interesting. Well, joining us now is our media panel, the Hill media reporter, Joe Concha, and Trump senior legal advisor and constitutional law attorney, and the author of Legal Basis for a Moral Constitution, Jenna Ellis. Thank you both for being here with us.
Great to see you.
Joe Concha, there are 2 things that bother me about this. Number one, what a weasel this team is, that they cannot stand to have a point of view that they don't all buy into. Isn't that the point of an op-ed page, for goodness sake? It is so unbelievable that they are so weak-kneed. Second, for a paper whose reporters are so sanctimonious about lying all the time, what they are saying is a downright lie. There is evidence going back and forth with the staffers and the Cotton office about the op-ed. To say that they didn't review this is plain false. And for a newspaper that is so sanctimonious about telling the truth, this is being overlooked by their colleagues in the media writ large, who just ignore it because guess what? They probably all agree with it.
Geez, Sean Spicer, tell us how you really feel.
I'm going to hold back.
Oh, look, lots of scalps, right, for the woke and for obviously for reporters there at the New York Times who turned on their own paper, saying that this put their lives in danger. An op-ed, really? Look, if this op-ed was so extreme that it should have never even seen the light of day, why is it that YouGov had a poll that was out yesterday that showed that 52% of the American people, that is a majority, think that it is okay to use the U.S. military to quell violent protests? 47% oppose. So that's a pretty reasonable debate to have, right? So whether you agree or disagree with what Tom Cotton wrote, the country is split on this. And that's kind of the point of an op-ed. You print things that some people may agree with, some people may disagree with. But now what we're seeing is people in these newsrooms now dictating what should and should not be seen based on point of view. And we saw it also with the Philadelphia Inquirer, an editor there of 20 years. He won a Pulitzer. And all he did was okay a piece that said buildings matter too. In other words, if you have a building, you have a business, that's your livelihood, that should be protected as well. And he got fired, or at least forced to resign. So 2 scalps, 1 weekend. The woke and the mob are winning right now, Sean.
Jenna, I think this brings about a question, as even Joe brought up, this editor for the Philadelphia Inquirer. If you care about one thing, you can't care about something else. We talked about this before, about the situation with kneeling in the NFL. If you say, I want to kneel, but not during the national anthem, then all of a sudden you don't care about Black Lives Matter. Are we seeing the same here, where someone can't say building matters too, all of a sudden you don't care about Black lives if you say that? Did this editor cross a line?
Didn't cross the line at all, and I think every reasoned and reasonable person understands that. We all understand that the nature of free speech and the reason that freedom of speech is protected by our Constitution is because Americans value the free exchange and the free marketplace of ideas. And what these mainstream media outlets want to only protect is just their own viewpoint. And we're seeing that more and more, that they want to drive a narrative, and they don't want anyone else who has a different viewpoint viewpoint to be amplified or to actually see that. And I want to contrast what happened with the New York Times and this op-ed by Senator Tom Cotton that was an opinion, it was an idea, and people are free to push back on that. That's the entire point of an opinion piece versus what we've seen from the New York Times in the campaign lawsuit, for example, that they tried to couch factually false statements in an opinion piece. So here's the same paper that's coming out and apologizing for an opinion from an elected senator who has a current seat in Congress, and yet they're still defending their own staff from writing factually false statements. That's journalism right now in America, and this is absolutely not what journalist integrity is all about. That's not what the First Amendment is all about. We are all about facts and then having an opinion based in fact, based in truth, and based in reality. The New York Times has exposed themselves as not purveyors of truth, but purveyors of a specific viewpoint narrative, and they want to quell everyone else who disagrees with them.
Joe, based on what Jenna just said, this is where I get concerned. We are heading into an election, and what happens? They keep trying to take pieces off the board, right? So they say, okay, we're not going to run any more op-eds, or we're going to run fewer of them, rather, in the New York Times. Twitter and Facebook keep censoring folks, taking their stuff off. I just think that we're getting further and further to a point where there is this concerted effort to get rid of and to silence any voices on the right.
We're seeing that more and more. We saw it already. I guess we got a preview, Sean, of what was happening on college campuses. And if somebody like Ben Shapiro went to go speak, and Ben Shapiro is not a provocateur in any way. He has strong opinions, but we're not talking about Alex Jones here or anything like that. And you would need hundreds of thousands of dollars of security just to secure Ben Shapiro's safety. So we kind of saw a preview of this. But in terms of what we're talking about here, as far as what the New York Times allows in editorials, this was one that ran this weekend. It said instructed to excommunicate loved ones until they've attended a protest or paid cash to author approved causes. So grandparents need to risk COVID-19 patients at a protest or pay up, and no grandkids. In other words, they're saying if you don't protest, regardless, you should disown family members that don't. That's okay. Or op-eds by the Taliban are okay. But Tom Cotton, that's bad, and we have to start firing editors over it. It is a scary time right now, Sean.
I'm glad you mentioned that. This is the same op-ed page that ran an op-ed from Putin, who hates America, and ran one from the deputy commander of the Taliban. They didn't have a problem with that, and now they have a problem. That's pathetic. Gentlemen, Joe, Jenna, the Jays, thank you for being here. I hope to have you back soon.
Get that anger under control, Spicer. My God. I like friendly Dancing with the Stars, Sean.
Come on.
This is a scary man. Like Clubber Lang.
We'll have you back, and he'll be back with the fire. All right, well, coming up, we're talking to conservative firebrand David Horowitz on Trump's 2020 presidential campaign. Stick around.